Nezha is the latest frame to get a Prime variant, and of course this means everyone needs to know how to build him to be the most effective. Nezha's a multi-role frame, especially capable in tanking, crowd control and mobility. The question is then, how do you get the most value out of him? Well, I'm Nick Engineer, let's solve a practical problem. First, I'd like to review his abilities, so we're all on the same page of what he can do, and then we can look at making it work in a build. His passive is basically improved sliding. This can take a little getting used to, but it can be a small speed boost, somewhat useful for crouch tapping when you're sprinting. Firewalker then has stats relating to damage, status cleansing, crowd control, and mobility. For the damage aspect, I rate it about a 2 out of 5. It does a modest amount over time, in a good area, but it's not really that reliable for mid levels and higher up. If you slap on the augment, you can put that up to a 3 out of 5. It's better, but not amazing. For status cleansing, that's a 4 out of 5, as Nezha cleanses status from himself and his allies whilst they're in the flames. It's not perfectly effective, as when he's airborne, no flames are usually produced, so you won't get the status cleansing then, but overall, pretty solid. For his crowd control on Firewalker, I put that a 2 out of 5. It's able to create some blocking to the NPC pathing, mostly via the fire procs it creates, but it's not the most reliable. And for mobility, a simple 3 out of 5. It's a cheap and quick 25% speed boost, which doesn't care about your strength. It's reliable, but not spectacular. Blazing Chakram then has stats in damage, damage increase, restoration, and mobility. For damage, it's a 1 out of 5, as it does a very small amount of damage realistically. With the augment, you can scale this up to be up 2 out of 5, but really, it's still forgettable. For the damage vulnerability, however, that's more useful, and I put it as a 3 out of 5. This can make targets much easier to deal damage to, but it does add a little bit of time to actually killing them versus other damage amplification methods. This is especially limited by the fact that it has to actually hit the enemies rather than being a cast on your stealth. It's a good supplement, something to consider alongside the other uses. For restoration, I put that at 4 out of 5. For every enemy hit by this, you're guaranteed to get at least an extra health orb, and you have a high chance of getting energy orbs too. It's not a perfect supply, but it is very usable, and it pairs extremely well with the Equilibrium mod and Synth Fiber mod. If you pop on the augment, you get some extra drops, but it's not noticeably different overall. And for mobility, I give this a 2 out of 5. The option there is with Blazing Chakram you can teleport, and it's a nice option, but it is a bit difficult to control to be particularly valuable. Don't even worry about the synergy with Firewalker on teleport. From my experience, it's honestly nothing to write home about. Warding Halo then has stats relating to damage, status blocking, and pure tanking. In terms of damage, it's tiny. The range is absolutely pathetic, and it has a pretty low damage amount as well, so this side is pretty forgettable. In terms of status blocking, however, it's a 5 out of 5. This is comprehensive status immunity, protecting you against everything from status procs such as radiation, all the way through to even protecting you from laser barriers, dealing damage or giving you a magnetic proc. It won't allow you to sleuth through spy doors, but anything status, even down to a Brahma knockdown, is negated. As for tanking then, this gives you a solid amount of tanking, not perfect, but a 4 out of 5, as it is a very high 90% resistance, and it's not strength based for that resistance. When you cast it, you'll get a brief moment of total invulnerability, and when it expires, you get another second of invulnerability to give you that moment to put it back into place, save you just dropping out like happens with Mesa in a Shatter Shield. There's no duration on this tank either, so long as Warding Halo is active, you're safe during lulls in combat to go into the next one fully ready to fight. And Nezha's fourth ability, Divine Spears, has stats relating to 2 areas only, that's damage and crowd control. For the damage side of things, that's a 2 out of 5. It's a modest amount, but rapidly outscaled by enemy leveling. The crowd control on the other hand, I rate a 4 out of 5, as this lifts a large area quickly and for a good duration. It's a hard crowd control, meaning enemies are completely incapacitated. This doesn't handle boss type units like Demolishers, nor units that enter the range after casting however, and this ability is completely countered by Ancient Healers, so everything within their aura will not get lifted up at all. So in terms of the casting stats then, for duration, strength and range, Firewalker benefits strongly from duration, a little bit to moderate amount from strength depending on how you're using it, but very little from range. Blazing Chakram benefits a little bit from duration, and a fair amount from strength, but is absolutely unaffected by range. Warding Halo is completely unaffected by duration, however strength plays a key part in this ability, and the range can be forgotten. For Divine Spears, duration is significant in terms of the crowd control, while strength affects the damage, so is reasonably insignificant. Range is critical, however, for this ability, making it completely different from the rest of Nezha's kit. Outside of the casting stats, Nezha is health and armor based, with his armor also supporting his Warding Halo. Nezha also gains a fair amount from speed and slide buffs due to his innately high stats. So with Nezha's kit considered, this is what I've settled on as my go-to build for Nezha. Nezha benefits greatly from using the Umbral set. The strength will improve the damage output from all 4 abilities, albeit to varying degrees of usability, as well as strongly enhancing the hit point conversion on his Warding Halo. With Nezha's solid starting health and armor, the Umbral set really enhances these, and again, Warding Halo benefits from the upgraded armor too. If you're not utilising Nezha's defensive capability, you can consider skipping the Umbral mods, though realistically speaking, if you're at a level where you can dispense of his health, armor and damage reduction, you probably don't need a focus build to begin with. With the exception of his Divine Spears, the rest of Nezha's kit does not rely on range, meaning this can be safely ignored. Narrow-Minded therefore doesn't have a downside, giving a very solid duration buff to fill the innate Vazarin polarity on both standard and prime Nezha. Alternatively, this can be swapped out for a defensive mod like Rolling Guard, Adaptation or a Gladiator mod to enhance your defences and recover some range for Divine Spears. I've put on Rush to capitalise on Nezha's speed, but you can swap this out for Flow to hoard more energy, Maglev to focus on sliding over sprinting, or an Augur mod to further enhance your casting stats. If you're running solo, you can safely skip all augments available for Nezha, putting in a casting stat mod like Streamline. Reaping Chakram looks good, but to be honest, in practice, the damage simply doesn't scale all that well, and it isn't worth the mod slot for the few instances it actually steps up. Likewise, the extra health orbs are nice, but you already get plenty using the normal Chakram. In a group, however, the Safeguard augment is brilliant. It allows you to put separate instances of Warding Halo on allies, including companions, though not your own Sentinel, and it can be used on defense objectives as well. The shared Halo has a lower durability than your own, but it retains 90% damage reduction and status protection aspects. Also, for some reason, this can be cast on Disruption conduits despite having no effect. The Pyroclastic Flow augment can accumulate a moderate amount of damage, but it covers a very small area. In practice, it didn't account for much at all. One use this augment does have is in allowing you to deactivate Firewalker at will. This has some marginal use cases where you may want to have less run speed or avoid leaving a damaging and thus alerting trail for a moment. Overall though, if you never use this augment, you're not missing out. As a final consideration for making your top Nezha build, you can also look at swapping in abilities using the Helminth system. Because Divine Spears is the only ability out of Nezha's entire kit which actually requires range, this is a good one to switch out for something that doesn't require so much range. So if you're looking for a pure damage buff, you can grab Roar, Warcry, Eclipse, Shock or Smite using the Shock Trooper or Smite and Fusion augments. Or if you're looking for a healing option, you can swap out Divine Spears for Well of Life or Blood Altar. Or if you're looking instead just to get a health or armor boost, you can use Elemental Ward. All of these abilities do benefit from range if you are looking to work with the rest of your team, but if you're just running solo or just not wanting to be much of a team player, then you can still drop the range down, just like with the normal builds. An alternative to all of this is using Fire Blast from Ember. This can function as a nice armor strip, a 75% strong armor strip in fact, and that one, whilst it is affected by range, it's not hugely disadvantaged by having a reduced range on it. Lastly, if you'd like a more consistent damaging ability to enhance the caster side of things, you can swap out Firewalker for Thermal Sunder from Gorse. It's a good damage alternative to Divine Spears for low levels, and it doesn't need duration at all. What makes this better than using Divine Spears itself is that it also doesn't slow or stop your movement on casting. Now, this ability doesn't scale indefinitely, but it can be used as a means to give Nezha a reliable AoE damage ability that's also less cumbersome overall than Divine Spears. I'm recommending ditching Firewalker for this one, as Firewalker demands an opposite build to Thermal Sunder, so the two really shouldn't be used together in the first place. Alrighty then, you're now up to speed on what Nezha's kit really is, how to build for it, and some helm options to match the stats you're utilising. If you found this video helpful, do give it a like, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing as well to catch more guides as they go live. Don't forget, I am streaming over on Twitch at twitch.tv/thekengineer on Wednesdays and Sundays in the UK evening, so why not drop a follow to get notified as soon as I go live. For now though, spread flames, win games, and fight well, Tenno.